Williams teaches history at Fairfield University in Fairfield, Connecticut, and is the chief historian and vice president of the Robinson Foundation in New York City. Dr. Williams is the author of numerous books, including Black Politics, White Power, Civil Rights, Black Power, and Black Panther in New Haven, finishing up a single-authored book entitled 6 Degrees of Segregation, Lynching, Capital Punishment, and Jim Crow Justice, 1865 through 1960. Ladies and gentlemen, please receive Dr. Uhuru Williams.
How y'all doing this evening? I said, how y'all doing this evening? I know you all a little cold. And tired and inspired. So I will be brief in my comments. I want to first thank Kirk Wesley for asking me to come out and share words with you tonight over the tragic murder of Trayvon Martin. And when Barack Obama said last week, if I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon, you all know that Republican candidate, hopeful Newt Gingrich, immediately opined that the president's comments were, quote, abysmal and despicable. He was followed by Rick Santorum, who said, the president is pouring gas on our racial fire. Well, I would remind Mr. Santorum in the immortal words of one William Joel, aka Billy, we didn't start the fire. That's right. For nearly 100 years in this country, pardon the colloquial expression, white folk walked around in hoodies, that is the robes and hoods of the Ku Klux Klan, even in this state. And with virtual impunity terrorized this community. Today, and I'll be very clear about this, from the close of the Civil War, African Americans have been terrorized by hooded figures and, in some cases, public figures that wear badges that deny justice by the sins of omission and commission, respectively. If police had arrested Mr. George Zimmerman, it is not likely that people would be gathering all over the country to voice protest over this gross injustice. At the same time, if this were an isolated incident, we would also have no reason to gather and mourn. But this is a familiar story for black and brown people with a very long and tragic history extending back to slavery in this country. And let's just be clear, because we have so much money to spend on wars in Iraq, wars in Afghanistan, people wanting to go to war in Iraq. Let's have a war on terror, which would include a war on poverty, a war on second-class citizenship, a war on inferior schools, a war on inequity, a war on ignorance, a war on injustice right here in our urban communities. And let's start with Bridgeport, Connecticut. Now, just in case I forget to say it later, let me say it now, and I want you to say it with me. I am Trayvon Martin. I am Trayvon Martin. You are Trayvon Martin. You are Trayvon Martin. And we are the 99%. Now, some of you may ask, why am I linking the death of this teenager with the 99% movement? Well, it's simple. Because in a case where 99% of the evidence points in one direction, where 99% of people in this country can identify with the victim, where 99% of us on some level have experienced or known someone who's experienced the bitter sting of racial separation, of the 99% who can't believe that even after the passage of a Civil Rights Act and hate crime legislation, you can still have a man go free for murder, and we have to dust off our marching shoes once again to be heard by the 1% who think that it's okay and have turned a blind eye to injustice. We are the 99%. And just in case I forget to say it later, let me say it now. I am Troy Davis. Say it with me. I am Troy Davis. You are Troy Davis. We are the 99%. Some of you may ask, why link the execution of a convicted felon in Georgia with the murder of an innocent teen from Florida? Let me remind you, there was significant protest and doubt in the Davis case, that we marched and protested and demanded justice, and they still slipped that black hood, over his head when they gave him the injection. Now I can understand why hoods would be scary to black folk. And I don't want to be insensitive. Some people have asked me, Dr. Williams, why are you not wearing your hoodie tonight? The same reason I don't have a bag of Skittles. When Nike and the other manufacturers of hoodies want to put up some money for a Trayvon Martin scholarship, when Skittles, which is making all this money from people running around with bags of Skittles, wants to put up a share the rainbow. Follow me? Share the rainbow. And I'll put Snapple and Arizona iced tea and anybody else that makes iced tea in that category. When you want to put up some money, put your money where your mouth is to fight injustice, I'll be happy to have a Skittle, a Starburst, or anything else. But let's be clear. I refuse to allow them to profit off the death of another black teenager in the same way in this cycle of poverty they feed on the profit from injustice of economic inequality in black and brown communities. We have young people that kill each other over sneakers. That's right. That kill each other over a pack of candy. As some of you know, Congressman Bobby Rush was escorted off the floor of the House of Representatives today for wearing a hooded sweatshirt in protest. If you know anything about Bobby Rush, you know that he was once the head of the Black Panther Party in Chicago. Now, I'm not talking about the new Black Panther Party, but the original Black Panther Party that believed in power to the people, that did not wait on government to address the problems in this community. People like my man Craig Kelly, who's here tonight. People like Wilfredo Matos, because Latinos have always been involved in this struggle with us, who is a member of the Young Lords. So when we say we want to give respect to our elders, let's be clear that the Community Action Network, headed by my man Kurt Wesley, and the young people from Housatonic, you got a long history and a long legacy in this city of activists who've been fighting the good fight literally since 1965. That's right. And if Trayvon Martin resonates with this community, it is truly because we are Trayvon Martin. And if we do not make a stand here, then there but for the grace of God, as we watch Bridgeport gentrify into gated communities along the Sound, our lack of due diligence, our failure to stand and fight, our false sense of security will come back to haunt us. Let's be clear, folks, we all watched in horror as they closed Stratford Avenue off to the rest of the city, and as they begin to put in the same siege and surveillance architecture that empowers people like Zimmerman to believe, well, there's a Negro in a hoodie in my community, he obviously doesn't belong, shoot, shoot, shoot. We're still in the midst of a culture war in this country. In case you forgot, I remind all of you of the words of former Secretary of Education, that is under Ronald Reagan, Bill Bennett, a few years back on his radio program, addressing a caller's suggestion that, quote, lost revenue from the people would have been aborted in the last 30 years, would have been enough to preserve Social Security. Bennett dismissed the caller and said, well, look, if you want to reduce crime, if that was your sole purpose, you could abort every black baby in this country and your crime rate would go down, end quote. Bennett then acknowledged, well, that would be an impossible, ridiculous, and morally reprehensible thing to do. But he nevertheless concluded, but your crime rate would go down. In some sense, not to be crude, the execution of Troy Davis and the murder of Trayvon Martin, the dismal state of urban schools, the broken system of mass incarceration in this country, the broken mechanisms of city service are late-term abortions robbing this community of the very essence of life and freedom that it deserves. A late-term abortion has the same impact. It robs a community of the vibrance of a life that could have been dedicated, as was mentioned earlier by Kirk, to the proposition articulated by Jefferson in 1776 that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed not by the state, not by the county, not by the federal government, but by their creator with certain inalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So look, let me conclude by telling you that I'm not here to rehabilitate hoodies. That's right. But I would like to take the word hoodie and turn it into an acronym, a call to action. So the H, we need to hold America accountable. That's right. The O, we need to organize for equality. Yes, right. The other O, we need to operate on the premise of justice. Yes, sir. The D, clear, don't stop fighting. That's right. The I, we need to insist on justice. That's right. And the E, Thank you, Lala. We need to maintain our faith in the eternal. The battle for justice in this world can ultimately be the saving grace of souls in the next. Our mission is not simply political, it is spiritual. And I'm going to tell you now in the immortal words of Barack Obama, yes we can, because you are Trayvon Martin, I am Trayvon Martin, and we are, say it with me, the 99%. Thank you.
Give it up again one more time for Dr. Uhuru Williams. That was amazing. Now lastly, on the program to lead us in a moment of silence is basically he's really kind of the person behind this thing. See, how this whole rally came about was I posted a picture on Facebook last week from the Million Hoodie March, and it showed a guy holding a sign saying "We want justice" made of Skittles. And you know, I posted it and people commented on it, but there's one person who commented. I said we should organize one out here. And you know, this one person commented on it, and he just said, "Let's do it." You know, there are millions of injustices going on in our community that, you know, no one speaks out about. Like, we should have a voice and do something about it. And I was just like, okay, let's do it. And you know, we put this together in 6 days, and I mean, this dude has been with me right along the way. I knew him, but I didn't even know him like that before. And you know, he just really inspired me to want to do better and be better. See, I'm a person that, you know, if you hear me, I'll talk a lot about what's wrong, but it's very rare that someone actually challenges me to do something about it. So I just want to thank my brother Terrell Brown for challenging me and inspiring me for doing something about it, and he's going to lead us in a moment of silence.
Good afternoon, everybody. Alright, I started off and I said this is our city, so I need y'all to do this again. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. If this is your city, I need to hear you make some noise. Thank you, Dr. Williams. Thank you for the staff of Housatonic. Thank you, everybody. Like, thank y'all for your support. I'm just gonna say like something real quick. Like, this is very like touching to me. Like, I'm appalled. I really didn't expect all of this. When I made the challenge to Kirk, it was just like, yo, like, what you gonna do? Like, you talking about it, but I mean, be about it. Like, and y'all really are what like made it happen. So I need y'all to give yourselves a round of applause. Kirk said earlier in his statement, what are we gonna do going forward? And it was, I mean, he said it right. Like, what are you personally gonna do going forward? We could talk about it all day. We could join in these rallies. We could bash each other, bash the government, bash the system, bash all the injustice, bash everything that's unpeaceful. But at the end of the day, just talking about it is nothing. Taking some actions, going down to City Hall, going down to the Board of Education, fighting for what's right, and making some moves. Not just the adults, talking to the people around our age again. No disrespect to the elders, because I know Kirk gonna get a whooping after this, but I'm talking to the people that's 18 to 40, like Kirk said. What are we gonna do? It's nice for Lieutenant Daniels, Brother Dai, Dr. Williams, and the staff, and all the adults, all of our parents to fight for us. But ultimately, what do we want out of life? What do we want out of our city? What do we want out of our community? Like, where do we want to see happen? I'm taking the initiative, and y'all could quote me on this. Y'all could record it in the news, in the newspaper, or whatever else. I'll be the spokesperson for us. If nobody else gonna stand up, I'll stand up, and we gonna make a change. We're gonna get some after school programs. We're gonna get some jobs involved for the teenagers and their summer programs or whatever else. But this is touching to me. I lost a lot of friends here that I went to school with, high school, elementary school, whatever else. A good friend of mine's Rakita, like she was my road dog. She got shot down in her car. Like, and no justice has been served. Nobody knows anything yet. But this is for a moment of silence for all of the ones that we lost here, as well as Trayvon Martin. With that said, make some noise for your city. With that said, make some noise for your city. That's better. Thanks, Kirk.
Well, thank you all again for coming out. Thank you for showing all the support. And again, let's think about what we're going to do to cause a drastic change in our community and promote unity, love, and justice. God bless you all and have a good night.